Hello and welcome back to Pathfinder, the series in which I illustrate my friend Milena's children's book and let you take part in the working process. In the last episode we made this kind of rough layout in Photoshop and I sent these first drafts to Milena, and we decided that choosing a double page layout would be the best for this project because it gives us a little bit more space for the illustration and the text. Hi. My name is Ellie, and I'm a tattoo artist from Germany. I do content about tattoo, digital painting and other art forms here on my channel. Please consider subscribing and hit the little bell button, for I'm not a big full-time YouTuber and my posts will most likely be buried. Thank you so much for supporting the little channels. In this episode, episode 4, we will get really into the layouting part. We will do a proper layout in a proper layouting software for said illustration that we made and also for the text-based pages. So let's go to the computer. Okay, at this moment we are in a program called InDesign from Adobe. With the exception of Photoshop, of which I recently treated myself to the latest version, I still work with the old CS5 version of the Adobe programs as far as other graphic programs are concerned. This, however, should be perfectly fine for my current demands. What I'm doing now, or rather trying to do, is to create a page with a perspective grid and guidelines, which I can then use for the illustration and the layout of the text blocks. The program is unfortunately in German, so I won't be able to explain as much in English, but the overall idea is that you can design a complete book with the help of this software. InDesign is less about pictures and more about text and the layout and combination of various elements. On its own, the program can be used for posters, flyers and many other layout-based things, but in combination with Photoshop we can combine our elaborate illustrations with text in a proper way. This one I'll show you briefly because it's very interesting. You see, here I can create many book pages and design them individually, but I can also provide each of them with a template that I have created beforehand, which contains, for example, guidelines and text blocks. And that way all the pages will be even and match one another. For now, however, I will struggle a bit with the grid and create a suitable pattern for our text. Alright, so this is looking quite fine now. Next to the actual grid I was also struggling with the font a lot. At first, back in Photoshop in the last time, I chose Arial as a font, but after some research I was advised to use something like Garamond instead for children's book and generally younger readers. So I chose that. And now I'm going to import the rest of the design elements and put it all together. Okay, so I recreated the old layout in a more decent form with correct proportions, baseline grid and new font. I have also enlarged the lettering and the associated baseline grid, as you have just witnessed. I also chose a huge font size because I had the weird feeling that the text was still too small, even when I had chosen unusual large text sizes already. Usually you'd use something like 11 or 12 for texts, but I just noticed after a while that I accidentally chose a DOE 4 format for the document. instead of DIN A5, which is smaller and is what I had initially planned. I didn't want to start all over again, so it's going to be DIN A4 for now. Generally, I wanted to have the text size a little bit bigger because the target audience are children and they need larger text sizes than adults. Of course, it shouldn't be too large either. The focus is still firmly on the images, but the content of the book is by no means secondary. At this point, I must express a big thank you to my dear fiancé. This whole layout thing is quite difficult for me, and even back then in graphic design, it was a rather unloved task for me. My fiancé took the time to teach me one or two tricks, at least on the surface, and also reminded me of things that I used to know but had banished from my active memory because of my aversion to graphic design. Luckily, without him, there's no way I would have gotten this far. But he also pointed out to me that our little boy on the opposite side has a tiny bit too little space around him, and I agree. Especially on the top and on the right-hand side, he seems a bit too pressed against the edges of the picture. I also need additional space for the book's trim, which I haven't set up in the document yet. This is important because the book will be printed later and the cutting machines always need a few millimeters of space to avoid cutting into the empty space and leaving unsightly white borders. Now we have to go back to Photoshop and create a little bit more space around the child and make the kid generally smaller, so we have a little bit more space on the upper part and on the right hand side. Now would actually be a good moment or the time to do some test prints. But my printer is currently broken and I can't just get a new one quickly, and I can't just go to work and print there because it's locked down again, and I also kind of don't want to get to my studio and there use the printers for my other work-related stuff. So for now I will proceed with the next task, which is the background for the text page and the for the double page for the first illustration that we made in episode 2. Now that I'm happy with the yellow double page, I want to go back and do the same for the double page that will be put right before this one. In episode 2 we made this title illustration for the chapter, but of course this is just one page and the other side will be dominated by text, just like we had in the yellow double page. This page now will have a summary of this chapter's main topics, and it will have to match the title illustration in color and theme. So let's get started. So now a lot of things happened. This was easier and faster, of course, now because of the work that I had made for the other page beforehand, and I think that this will be enough for today. I will send this to Milena again and see what she thinks about it, and in the next episode we will have at least one double page that will be completely filled with text, so we will have to come up with a interesting but very subtle background for those, and I'm very excited for that. So see ya, and I hope you like this video, and I hope you tune in next time. And at this point at this point, of course, I as usual want to thank my dear patrons who make these kind of videos possible, and a special huge thanks goes out to my biggest supporters, the fantastic Satanic Sushi of Sin, Zockhard, Medera, Wuschiges Etwas, and Mrs. Hippo. You are the very best, and I say bye. Bye.